Hello, my dear friends. Can you hear me? I hope that you can. Um, as always, whole world is in the chat. It's so good to see you. Okay, I think we have sound, we have coffee, so I think that we can start. And what should we start with today? Let me think, because we have several updates besides the main topic, which is Russian gliding bombs. Yeah, I can see that people can hear me well. It's so good. Um, let's talk about Crimea first, okay? Because today, all kinds of Russian propagandists are celebrating the siege or, uh, and not annexation yet, but acquiring of Crimea. Um, Back in 2014, these individuals that looked like Russian, that had Russian weaponry, that had Russian vehicles, emerged in Crimea and basically annexed it. And you remember Putin was saying that all these men, that all those people, they were basically uh, local militia, local self defense that decided to become part of Russia. And in his every interview, he was saying over and over and over again that no, they are not Russians. They are basically Ukrainians who want to become Russians. All those guys, they bought their equipment in the military stores. They bought their weapons and machine guns and helicopters in like a kiosk in Crimea. Basically, you can buy anything. Tank. If there's a salt mine, you can find something even cooler, like anti-air system, like the one that shot those people flying in the Boeing uh, over Donbass in 2014. Um, and he was repeatedly saying that those are not Russians. There are no Russian soldiers in Crimea. Russian soldiers don't participate in whatever's happening there. And only a couple of years later, he started awarding different servicemen with medals with the dates of this Crimean operation. So today, Russians celebrate this absolutely enormous achievement of annexing a piece of a foreign territory. That's just a small reminder. Is that 1950s little green man? That is Russian green man. They like their whole mentality is forged in around 1947. Didn't change since that time. But we have to mention this. So one of the biggest threats since last year, actually since 2023, um, when those bombs started being using massively, it was one of the Russia's biggest advantage on the battlefield, specifically in the frontline territory. So Russians designed gliding bombs. They designed not the very bombs, but the gliding module that would um, guide the bomb towards the target. And those bombs were massively, massively used not only against the infrastructure in the frontline cities like Kharkiv, for example, Kharkiv, Sumy, but also on the front line itself. We're talking about the Ukrainian command centers. Unfortunately, I've lost some of my very, very good friends to a thing like that. Um, my good buddy, one of them was a company commander, and another was a company sergeant. We were together since the very, very early days of my brigade. Unfortunately, those guys gave their lives due to this type of weaponry. Um, Russians massively used them in 2024. They would literally launch more than 10 such bombs, usually around 10 in the beginning of utilizing them. And later they started mass producing those gliding bombs. They were nasty. And you can ask whoever, whatever soldier on the front line, they will tell you that that stuff is nasty. Um, and this was the main driver of the Russian advance. Basically, Russians could launch those bombs from a distance, destroy important targets, or literally destroy personnel. They were very, very effective. What made them effective? The very process of launching those bombs, because Russian bombers and Russian airplanes like Su-34, for example, could launch the gliding bomb approximately 70-75 kilometers away from the target and easily evade anti-aircraft systems that were utilized by Ukrainian defenders. So they could launch them around 70 kilometers away, safely return back to their base, and the gliding bomb would glide 70-75 kilometers and strike the target. The problem with that was you could easily detect them, actually, because even older Soviet radars were able to detect Russian gliding bombs. It wasn't the problem to detect those bombs. The problem was to react fast enough and understand how exactly to intercept those bombs, because the missiles are okay. Let's be honest. Yes, human life is expensive, like priceless. It's priceless, but the missiles are expensive. Bomb itself is like it's cheap. It's the same as shooting down Shahed drones with Patriots, right? We can do that, but we gotta find cheaper solution to do this. Therefore, we could not utilize expensive missiles to shoot down gliding bombs. And we came up with several ideas on how to make this possible. And also, of course, the time of reaction, because between dropping the bomb and like the ability to react and do something about it, there's just a small time gap. So, first of all, I would like you to, you know what? I didn't connect to the proper internet now as I see. Guys, please let me know in the chat if I'm buffering, okay? Because I didn't connect to the proper internet, and the one that I have here is kind of good, but I have better. Please let me know, okay? I gotta also follow the chat here on my. Oh, I am not buffering. That is impressive. I have no idea why, but I'm glad that I don't. Okay, I would like to introduce this individual. His name is Svyatoslav Golikov, and he is basically a Russian terrorist. If you take a look at this photo taken from the Russian social network ВКонтакте, it was added on 3rd of August 2014. That is, again, there are no Russians in Donbass, not really. So he was a Russian military who participated in the Russian hybrid invasion of Donbass back in 2014. He also participated in occupying Crimea. And at this very point, Svyatoslav Golikov is known for being a so-called Russian war blogger, or how they call them, kind of war blogger. He has his own Telegram channel where he basically posts his analytics and what's the value of Russian war bloggers. So generally, Russian media is not independent. There's no freedom of speech in Russia. Everybody knows that. And Russian media are state-controlled. They only say what Kremlin tells them to say, nothing else. Okay. So Russian war bloggers, because they are not controlled by press service of the Russian military, they don't have agenda. They openly hate Ukraine. They don't have that um, any Russian, if we can call them like ethics of communications, ethics of communications in Russian media. Oh my God. Um, but generally, sometimes they provide some very, very interesting information. There was a law that was meant to be adopted last year, as far as I remember, in Russia to shut down those Russian military bloggers because the information they provide does not correspond to the official Kremlin's agenda. And sometimes they say some interesting things. Sometimes they can confirm, for example, our strikes. And because they're highly, highly involved in whatever happens in Russia or with the Russian military. Of course, they're very emotional. Sometimes they criticize the Russian command. Oh my God, this is basically a death wish if you do that. Girkin criticized Russian command. He criticized Putin, and basically now he's in jail. Same with Prigozhin. So I decided to translate a small video with Svetoslav Golikov for you, my friends, because Golikov recently had an interview where he tried to explain why exactly the Russian advance not stopped, but slowed down so bad. Because at this point, Russians have, at this point, Russians have 4 times as much personnel in Ukraine as were involved in the first days of the Russian invasion. They have 4 times more troops than in 2022. At the same time, the front line is basically stationary. In the beginning of February, I believe 7th or 8th of February, they already announced that Russian forces took Toretsk, that Toretsk is basically under Russian control, Ukrainian fled and stuff. But from what we know now, Russians already lost several quarters, several city blocks in Toretsk because the street combat continues in that place until today. And today we have 27th of February. So roughly 3 weeks after announcing that Toretsk has fallen and Russia is controlling whatever remained of Toretsk, they still don't have full control. And Ukrainian army keeps pushing back. So he tried to explain what's going on the front lines. And by the way, this individual, he is also known for dramatically criticizing his command, for criticizing the generals, the generals. Oh my God, what a cool word. Because they are fucking stupid. So let's watch a video for you that I translated for you guys.
Продвижения, которые имеются на Покровском направлении, подвижки сейчас по Торецку, по Часову Яру, с одной стороны, выглядит позитивно, потому что, ну, движение вперед есть. С другой стороны, как бы это, может быть, не парадоксально звучало, я, скажем так, не испытываю особого восторга от этих подвижек. Почему? Не потому, что мы идем, а потому, как мы идем.
So he says something that would only a military person say. Because when you read all kinds of degenerates that are extremely happy that Russia is taking literally square kilometers of Ukrainian land on a daily basis, and Ukraine is a big freaking country. It's second largest country in Europe. Which again, if we don't consider French Guyana, then it's probably first biggest country in Europe. All the degenerates, all the Z-patriots, they say that we don't care how many people we lose on a daily basis, but still we're moving slowly and steadily. We will kill you all. However, if we calculate how many years and human resources they will need to capture whole Ukraine, considering what they have right now and their speed of advance, they will need more than 100 years and more than male population they physically have at this point. They will need to combine the population of Russia and population of North Korea, possibly, which will not, of course, help them because they have other problems. But this dude, because he's a military, he basically says what a military person would say because he can see the situation and he understands that you can burn a division of people for 50 square miles, and in the end, that's it. You cannot advance further because you don't have vehicles, you don't have men. He understands that. He understands the risk, the problem. And today, we are fighting war of attrition, my friends. The country that can outlast the opponent wins the war. That is the foundation, the basis of the war of attrition. The country that can outlast the opponent will win the war. If you just burn as many people as you like for square kilometers of the territory, that is not how you fight the war of attrition. So, in this regard, this I cannot call him an imbecile. I have absolutely no respect towards this individual because he's an enemy and terrorist, and I would be happy to see him eliminated like a freaking Prigozhin or Osama bin Laden. But he's smart and he says what he sees. He can analyze whatever is happening on the front lines. And again, this dude is not only a military blogger, not only a terrorist with a huge experience behind his shoulders, but also an instructor for the Russian army. So,
берем какие-то условно клочки, и за это платим очень дорогую цену нашими солдатами.
О том, какую цену мы платим, господи, я уже задолбался говорить. Наши продвижения действительно оплачиваются очень высокой ценой. Цена очень высокая, еще раз, очень высокая. Противник по факту использует стратегию истощения именно что наших человеческих и материальных ресурсов. Материальные тоже надо.
That is what I was saying, that in the war of attrition, if you can outlast your enemy, if you can survive longer than your enemy, you will win. And he understands the risk that Ukrainians currently can sacrifice square kilometers of the territory by burning Russian troops. That is something that we did starting since 2022, when Russians had enormous advantage in terms of artillery, for example, 10 howitzers against one Ukrainian howitzer, 10 battalion tactical groups against one Ukrainian battalion tactical group. Currently, situation is a bit different, and after losing more than 800, holy shit, how much is there? 870,000 troops. They started slowly realizing that they are going to be fucked big time in the nearest future.
Потому что техника выбивается очень активно. При том, что заводы у нас там в 3 смены работают, вот, но объективно эти мощности, они загружены по ремонту и модернизации техники. Но тем не менее, то, что идет с заводов, оно не покрывает.
Very interesting question, my friends. Why, considering the fact that all Russian factories are working non-stop 24/7 in 3 shifts, why, considering all that, all the vehicles they repair, all the vehicles they modernize, all the vehicles they build, however, like how many vehicles they build, like a handful of vehicles annually. Mostly, of course, they refurbish whatever they have on their storages, which are depleting very, very fast. How come, having all that, they are unable to cover their losses in vehicles on a daily basis? What's the reason? And again, Russia is or was considered world's second largest or strongest army.
Затраты в технике. Ну, а людские потери это... Ну, при всех тех отчетах о поступлениях новых контрактников ежемесячно у нас группировка не растет. Ну, это о чем-то же говорит. Вот. То есть это все стачивается. И противник вполне себе успешно разменивает вот эти клочки территории на наши ресурсы.
Again, that's exactly what I was saying. He realizes that Ukraine started eliminating more Russian men and destroying more Russian vehicles than Russia can afford losing. And this process continues. We started this process back in 2022. Rubizhne, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, those areas. Bakhmut, same story. Solidar, same story. Avdiivka, same story. When Russians would drop a lot of troops into meat assaults, burn as many vehicles as possible to appease Putin, to appease the commanders, and grant them the ruins of the captured city, which was literally full of Russian bodies and destroyed Russian vehicles. And this process continues, and currently Ukraine came to the level when Ukraine is able to eliminate more Russian people than Russians are able to recruit. That is, again, something very important. According to General Budanov, it's not so far, because Russia can still afford recruiting quite a lot of personnel, but the speed of this recruitment and the quality of those recruited Russian soldiers, they are absolutely bad. Generally speaking, untrained, unprepared, unexperienced Russian soldiers arrive to the front lines. They die in the next meat assault, and they don't gain any experience. The unit itself doesn't gain any experience, which is a big problem for Russians.
Святослав, а у противника какое главное преимущество перед нашими?
В технической части, конечно, в первую самую очередь, пожалуй, сейчас имеет смысл отметить компонент БПЛА. Причем не только насыщенность самими дронами, но и организационную структуру. Они вполне успешно либо запечатывают наши прорывы, либо тормозят. Вот. И
What Viper said the other day when we had a stream, and soon, by the way, we will have interview on the UATV channel. I will drop the link in the community posts for you guys. So that is the picture. Russians can rarely approach our positions closer than 300, 200, rarely, but 300 meters because basically they are being obliterated by Ukrainian FPV drones. Ukrainian strike drones currently rule the Ukrainian battlefield. Russians acknowledge that Russians openly talk about it, and Russians cannot do anything to counter this problem, which is not a problem, this is a blessing, actually.
Наносят очень серьезный урон. Плюс очень сильно воздействует на коммуникации. То есть тыловая зона, которую можно считать относительно безопасной, но сейчас уже начинается от 20 километров. То есть ближе 20 километров к линии боевого соприкосновения, ну все, просто так уже не подъедете. 15-20 километров люди, а то, кстати, больше, люди ходят пешком. Вот, таскают все на себе. Вот, и раненых выносят на себе. Ну, то есть это ситуация такая, конечно, очень сложная. Факт.
That is why, my dear friends, you can see plenty of their donkeys. Donkeys and horses. Not sure what they will be using in the nearest future. Because generally, I asked in one of my previous episodes whether $400 for a donkey is a good price, and some of the people, for example, in Australia, say that it's a perfect price. However, my lady, she's from Iran, and she says that in Iran that is extremely expensive, you know, and considering that Russians are not the richest people in the world, I don't think that $400 for them is like okay, you know. Especially if there's Kadyrovites in the area, they're losing donkeys very, very fast. Oh my God. So that is the reason why we can see all that. They are not risking of bringing their vehicles and concentrating their vehicles for an attack closer than 20 kilometers to the front line. That is insane, but this is reality. That is something extremely, extremely interesting. That is something that we would not imagine even back in 2023 when we were in Bakhmut, for example, and I remember that 10 kilometers from the front lines, deeper into Ukrainian rear, that was already kind of not safe, right? Because of the Russian artillery, Russian strike drones, Lancet drones, they were striking us pretty often. Currently, Russians are facing a similar situation, which is very, very bad for them.
Дронов ударных со стороны противника, ну, имеет, да, в общем, такое критическое значение. Отдельно отмечу все-таки артиллерию противника. Точность поражения. Увы, западные системы перекрывают наши преимущества по дальности, опять же, у западных образцов. Вот, к сожалению. По этой причине наша, собственно, артиллерия, имеющимися вот в наличии массовыми системами, эти все гаубицы, господи, Д-20, Д-30 и всякие еще странные вещи, которые каких-то там 40-х годов производства, вот, но они просто дальность, им не хватает дальности, они не добивают до артиллерии противника.
And this is something, again, something that we were talking about previously. Ukrainian, NATO/Ukrainian 155mm caliber requires less shells. According to our field manuals and NATO field manuals, they require less shells than Russian 152mm artillery. Russians shoot several salvos of 4 shells, and they consider that 12 shells can hit the target, while Ukrainians need like 3. And same considering the range of the Russian artillery, because again, here this Russian terrorist, he mentioned that Russians are using old artillery produced in 1940s, which is again, Russia is a superpower. Please don't forget about it, right? It's extremely strong and modern superpower equipped with modern weaponry produced in 1940s. That artillery is good at short range. Not anymore, not in 2025. Doesn't work well, especially against Western precise and advanced artillery. So this is just so you could understand what is the picture currently in the Russian army, why Russian advances slow down so dramatically. So the front line is basically stationary. Sometimes Ukrainian troops also manage to counterattack in, my God, Pishane, in Toretsk. We saw that happening already. And that is, again, considering that all kinds of MacGregors are saying that Ukrainians already disappeared. You know, they don't exist. Ukrainian army finished, ceased existing like back in 2023. One thing he didn't mention in this video, though, and I would like to share something from his Telegram channel because it's very important. And on his Telegram channel, he addressed the problem of Russian gliding bombs, those gliding bombs that we were talking about. So basically, he said that the enemy found and expanded the solution to counter their gliding bombs. He says, specifically from the people on the ground, I've heard the confirmation that at least in 2 neighboring areas of the operation, our enemy is successfully countering the guiding system for the Russian gliding bombs. He's talking about the electronic warfare. And it turns out that at this very point, electronic warfare on the front lines are enough to suppress the Russian navigation systems for those modules. He says that despite the number of the combat flights of our aviation, the effectiveness is still decreasing. The effectiveness of the Russian strikes is still decreasing, specifically considering that they lack massive strikes, numerous strikes on their targets. Basically, what they did previously was 1-2 gliding bombs per target. That would be enough. And he says that this principle doesn't work anymore because Russian bombs are falling in the field. They don't reach their targets. Russians had their electronic warfare operating in specific areas to cover them, to protect them against Ukrainian weapons. And we are talking specifically about, for example, Ukrainian long-range drones and surprisingly HIMARS. So there is several cases when Ukrainian troops would launch HIMARS missiles that are again guided by satellites using the satellite signal, and they would not reach the targets because of the Russian electronic warfare. Because, for example, when Russians use systems like Krasnukha, those are very powerful. And for example, recently, you remember when they started suppressing the GPS signal in the Northern Europe, the GPS signal that is usually used by civilian aviation, you can see that they have enough power, enough capability to do that. So there were cases already in 2023 when Russians would use electronic warfare to literally counter the HIMARS systems. So the only way to counter that is to destroy the electronic warfare systems on the first place. So now it works for Ukrainians, and Ukrainians utilize electronic warfare. They expanded their EW capabilities in order to evade Russian gliding bombs. There was another confirmation coming from a different Telegram channel that belongs to, oh my God, fighter bomber, that inglorious man who I hoped died on board of the Russian A-50 AWACS airplane, but unfortunately he survived. So what he says in his Telegram channel, he says that the age of the gliding bombs turned out to be short, and he was writing that they should prepare to the fact that Ukrainians will find the countermeasure to counter their gliding bombs. Long ago, many years before the full-scale Russian invasion. That's again, they were preparing. Of course, everybody knows that they were preparing years before. He says that, of course, the gliding bombs played their role, that they basically saved the Russian Air Force from big losses and stuff, but nothing is eternal, and usually people are such creatures that want to survive and do everything possible to survive. He says, and this is very interesting, by the way, in this publication, he says he calls Russia Laos. He calls like Russian air forces the air forces of Laos. Why, you might ask? That is literally because they are afraid to call their country. They are afraid to call Russia, because if he starts writing about like Russia, using the word Russia, he will go to jail. He will meet Girkin possibly in person. So Russians call their country Laos at this point, which I think is kind of funny. So he says, uh, people that care about this problem already started raising awareness, but according to the traditions of Laos, nobody gives a damn about it. According to the Russian reports, the bombs are striking the targets, the targets are being destroyed. All the presentations, all the like statistics provided by the Ministry of Defense of Russia, they become like richer and richer. But there's a problem: the bombs don't hit. And he explains that all the satellite systems of guidance officially don't work. He says that Russian EW specialists and, of course, Ukrainian EW specialists use the mobile electronic warfare systems that are located along the front line. And this makes correction of all kinds of guided weaponry utilized by Russians, not only the Russian gliding bombs, absolutely freaking useless. And he also mentions that this is also the way Ukrainians make Russian radio-controlled drones absolutely useless, which means that apparently soon we will see more Russian drones, more Russian drone specialists utilizing the fiber optic, oh my God, fiber optic controlled FPV drones, etc. He also mentions that, of course, if we're talking about big targets, for example, like factories or cities where civilian people live, such a bomb can actually hit, but there are no such targets at the front line. And I think it's really, really important. So at this point, we can say that Ukrainian troops learned how to expand their EW capabilities to deflect, to evade Russian gliding bombs, and not only them. What did we use previously? Because previously, when these threat arose and we were searching for some kind of solution how to intercept those gliding bombs without using all of our missile resources and make this solution cheaper, we made several inventions, let's call them this way. We, for example, successfully tested this system. This is ZU-23-2. This is old Soviet anti-air gun. Okay, it's a really nice thing. It's controlled by two men. So generally, you can see there, you can see this stuff controlled by two soldiers. It's not really convenient, and it's kinda old, right? So what did smart people do? They created this stuff. Basically, they installed a control system. Also, this stuff works in pair with the radar that basically guides ZU-23-2. This one is cool. This one can actually intercept like drones, and this solution is generally, I would say a bit cheaper than German Gepard, that absolutely amazing and legendary machine that is currently massively used to intercept Russian drones. So I like Gepard. Gepard rules, but this stuff can be actually cheaper. If mass produced, it can be cheaper. And recently, this anti-air gun was used to intercept a Russian gliding bomb successfully in the area of Zaporizhia. So this one was good, but again, the problem is that the range of this anti-air gun is, depending on the ammo type, is like roughly 3,000 meters, right? I'm not sure about the technical specifications of this one. Maybe like the range is a bit extended because of increased precision, but generally it's like 2,700, 2,800 meters up to 3 kilometers, which is a problem. So it's either you have to install them on the um, most important objects, for example, to intercept drones, because this stuff is able to intercept drones, or you should install them on the front line. And installing them on the front line, I don't really know if it will be very effective. That's why electronic warfare actually works. Electronic warfare is kind of fun. It's like when your guys drop you a location and you need to go to their position, for example. So you're driving to their position, and all of a sudden you see that you're actually not in Donbass, but like in Turkey, for example. It's kind of fun. And so electronic warfare systems, I think we will see them improving, expanding, and Russians basically cannot do much against them. So I think we should congratulate all the decent people who help Ukrainian defenders. And by the way, if you paid close attention to what that terrorist Golikov was saying in his video, you probably understand that Ukrainian FPV drones, Ukrainian long-range drones play critical role currently at the front line. And if you want or feel like supporting this, you can make it even better. So please support Ukrainian defenders. Please support different foundations like Come Back Alive, for example, or foundation of Serhiy Pritula. There's a lot of them. But if you want to support, for example, my brigade, you can find the link in the description. HARMATA Volunteers, that is a foundation that helps my brigade, specifically the legendary HOSTOMEL Brigade. We have a bunch of updates besides that. I don't know really how to react to this one, because I cannot connect the dots at this very point. I'm trying to understand it, but I literally can't. So the other day, you probably saw that Mr. Witkoff, who had a successful, extremely successful negotiations with Russians, and he reported that Russians are happy to work together. They happy to trade their resources with the United States. They ready to do whatever, shake hands, hug, drink vodka together with Americans, and yada yada. Um, that was interesting, but at the same time, wait, I hope that I say that. Yeah, hopefully. Sorry, I need to. Yeah. So Witkov endorsed Russians so much. After that, Lavrov makes a statement saying that no matter what Americans are trying to achieve with those negotiations, but until the Russian conditions are met, Russia is not going to stop their aggression against Ukraine. Won't happen. I'm watching that and I'm like, well, yeah, what else did you expect, my dear friends? Shortly after that, in one of his recent videos, Putin says, um, I endorse Donald Trump. He has a very effective and innovative views. I endorse what he does. He does a really, really good job, negotiations, etc., etc. And Putin starts endorsing Donald Trump. And today, it turns out that Trump prolongs the sanctions against Russia uh, until 2026, and I cannot really connect the dots. Like, Russians are so much endorsing the new administration. They even name their kids Trump, serious shit. I think that you saw that already. There was a report in some of the Telegram channels from Russia that a couple named their kid in Russia. They named their newborn Trump. And after that, Trump starts prolonging the sanctions against the Russian terrorists, which is something they don't want. Another question, of course, is how will those sanctions be controlled? Because if you fire so much personnel that basically responsible for controlling those sanctions, implementing those sanctions, that is a different thing. But I don't know. I just feel like buying a bottle of vodka and literally going to sleep, hoping to wake up in March at least. Um, what the hell is going on? I have no idea. Or I have an idea, my friends. I have an idea, and my idea sounds like this. Current Trump's administration has absolutely no strategy regarding achieving geopolitical goals by letting Ukraine or helping Ukraine win, or by helping defeat Russian invaders, and no communication strategy. That is something that I don't see. It's not like I'm criticizing them, that is literally facts. All of their representatives are saying different things. The other day, that dude, God, what was his name? He's a nominee in Pentagon. Where did I say this? Mr. Steven Feinberg, who really couldn't tell whether Russia invaded Ukraine, and he was asked by Senate twice whether Russia invaded Ukraine, and he couldn't answer. He's like, we have this very, very important moment right now, very, very important negotiations with Russians, so we don't want to scare them. We literally need to kiss their asses and pretend that, we believe that nobody invaded Russia. That is one of the strategies that I can see. Don't admit that Russia invaded Ukraine. Don't speak bad about Russians. Don't criticize them. Do you think, for example, somebody from the Trump administration even remembers that in July 2014, Russians brought a freaking anti-air system from Russia to the Donbass and killed 298 people on board of MH17 flying from Netherlands to Malaysia? I don't really think so. And I don't really think that somebody besides people who care and remember this, will be talking about it anymore. But it's a fact, and there are many, many uh, atrocities committed by Russians that unfortunately are being slowly, slowly forgotten. And this is something that we should always remember about, and we should not let the society forget about them. So, first of all, I would like to say big thanks to our moderators. Okay. Uh, beware the gliding donkeys. Yeah, the other day I saw that commentary on my channel. Like, why don't Russians install the cope cages on the donkeys that they use at the front lines? And I have no idea why. Like those grill bars, I have no idea why they don't do that. Because generally speaking, donkeys, yeah, I believe that $400 for a Russian person, it's a big money actually. They have to collect money from like the whole uh, platoon, for example. Thank you for mentioning MH17. I will always mention MH17 as long as I am alive, because this is something that you cannot just forget. And what pisses me off, literally, is the fact that there are people in the top management of a country that is considered a superpower, a leading economy, that forget about such things. They proclaim that they care about human lives. They want to stop the war. They want to stop the killing immediately. And at the same time, they never accuse the murderer in things like that, in killing almost 300 innocent lives using Russian weapons brought from the Russian territory to Ukraine. In the period of time when Putin was saying there are no Russian soldiers in Donbass, there are no Russian troops, there are no Russian vehicles, Ukrainians shot down that airplane themselves. All kinds of bullshit lovers like Joe Rogan, for example, not him specifically, but he's a good comparison if we're talking about the bullshit lovers. They were saying that actually, you remember that Malaysian airplane that disappeared over the sea previously? So Americans found that Boeing, I shit you not, that was literally in the Russian news. Americans found that Boeing and they put the bodies of people on board, and then they flew it remotely to the Donbass, and then they crashed to blame Russians. And then they created a lot of disinformation, enormous amount of Photoshop, featuring Google Maps, with painted airplanes shooting that MH17 and things like that. That was absolutely insane. That is the terrorist country that will never acknowledge responsibility for killing those people. Never. If we're talking about, for example, Iran that shot down Ukrainian airplane several years ago, uh, they at least acknowledge that they did it. They didn't pay reparations. They didn't pay compensation to Ukrainian family. No matter what they were saying, they kind of said, "Well, yeah, that were us. Like deal with it." But at least they freaking admitted that it was their fault. They couldn't find some kind of convincing lie, to say that, oh no, that actually Ukrainians crashed themselves. At least they admitted. Russians will never do that. Never. They will never admit responsibility because they don't respect anybody. They don't respect life, they don't respect themselves. And generally speaking, I highly advise you, my dear friends, to watch that last episode about the dismantling the Russian regime, because this is something that we should really do, in my personal opinion. Uh, that big terrorist organization called Terrorist Federation must be dismantled. It should not exist. If we want to live in a peaceful society, we should just make it disappear. If we want at least to do something good, to honor those people on board of this airplane. What happened to the motorcycles? You cannot use them well um, at this very point, because there is a gap between seasons when it's not hard, the soil is not solid enough, right? And there's plenty of mm, mud. Mud in Donbass is nasty. It's like made out of a crazy mix of soil and clay. And when you walk, when it's like wet, with each step you become like taller and taller. And it's very, very hard to move. So at this very point, they don't use motorcycles much, because when it's hot, like or like cold enough for this mud to stay liquid, and hot enough for this mud to stay liquid, they're not really good. Was there a target on MH17 that Russia wanted to eliminate? You see, Russians, and so generally there is a version. There is a version that Russians wanted to shoot down a Ukrainian AN-26, a military aircraft. And basically, as soon as they shot down the Malaysian aircraft, uh, Girkin on his Twitter, and it can still be found, he said that we shot down a Ukrainian airplane. Currently, we're going there, and we will show you the result. They were already celebrating the victory. And then when they arrived and they saw that freaking horror, the like remains of people literally sitting in their seats still, and civilian things and those bodies and everything, they instantly removed the post on Twitter and pretended that, yeah, something bad happened, of course, but we don't know what exactly. Another thing I remember when they brought that book system, BUK, the anti-aircraft system from Russia. First thing they did was they published a publication on Twitter saying that, you see, this was taken from Ukrainians who were retreating from us, and they literally just forgot this anti-aircraft system here, and it will be protecting the peaceful skies of the Donetsk People's Republic. Later, when they shot down the civilian Boeing, they removed that publication as well. Actually, I believe that it was like a video even or something. But I remember that because we were researching this, and I remember that as well. If there is something posted on the internet, it will always remain on the internet. Question asked wrong. If Russia didn't invade Ukraine, who did? Well, yeah. I don't know. There are facts such as Russian missiles crossed the border and flew towards Ukraine. There were Russian tanks, Russian vehicles, Russian personnel that crossed the border and came to Ukraine. Why is it so hard to just acknowledge the fact? Why? And I have a version why, but I don't have enough proofs to confirm it. Because it's like, the territory of tinfoil hats, which I'm not a fan of. But what I see at this very point is that current administration is trying to restore the reputation of Russians. Maybe I'm wrong, but that is what I see. Because, like, remember the resolution that was adopted, right, in the United Nations, the resolution that was offered by the Trump administration, by the ambassador to the United Nations. The explanation of not mentioning Putin as an invader and war criminal and terrorist, the explanation was like, well, we already mentioned that for several years, and it doesn't help. It does, because narratives matter. Because when you call them for what they are, and Russia was recognized as a terrorist regime by the European Assembly and by the NATO Assembly in 2022, when you call them for what they are, it matters a lot. There is a difference when you call Russian invaders for what they are, invaders, or call them, I don't know, the glorious army of the Russian peacekeepers protecting the people of Donbass. There is a difference because there are no people of Donbass, there are Ukrainians. So it matters, and I have one explanation. Mr. Manafort, which, by the way, worked for Yanukovych before he started working for Donald Trump. Manafort was an advisor for Ukrainian dictator Viktor Yanukovych before he quit Ukraine. And I think that he has quite a few connections with the other side. But again, we need more information on that. Russians naming their kid after the orange one, they're gonna regret that so much. Yeah, I think that they will change his name eventually, maybe even very, very soon. But trying to analyze what the hell is going on right now when all of the representatives of the Trump's team have absolutely different version and different position, and they and Russians say absolutely different things. I reject to make any conclusion other than they don't really understand what's going on themselves. They don't really have a strategy at this very point. I hate when it happens. I cannot analyze clearly. I need more information. Anyone listen to the new song of 95th Brigade and Kozak Siromacha Zajivem? I gotta check it out, actually. I remember that I didn't accomplish one of my promises. Actually, I didn't keep one of my promises. That was making a bunch of playlists for my friends and like, I don't know, reacting or reviewing the coolest Ukrainian songs you can find out there. But I gotta do this 100%. Can Ukrainian electronic warfare make the glide bombs to fall on the Russian soldiers? Sarah, I think it's possible because there are already cases when Ukrainians and Russians as well were snatching each other UAVs. And I think maybe it's also possible to do that as well. I cannot tell you cannot talk about it from the technical standpoint because I am not an expert, but there are cases. There were cases I remember even like back in 2017 when our drones flying on a reconnaissance mission over the Russian territory, uh, Ukrainian territory controlled by Russians, they would sometimes be kind of snatched. They would just fly away and never return. Or I would shoot them down when they return. Maybe it's not like Russians were, like snatching the drones. Maybe it's just the drones were mad at me for shooting them down. What that be? Cash, check, or escorts, Mr. McGregor? That's an interesting question. Something like that. I don't believe that he's uh, ideological supporter of Russians. I think that he has just this very big ego. I think ego. Maybe some other benefits. Who knows? Russians are very, very good at uh, providing necessary people with benefits. But one thing that I really like is that I'm very, very impressed with the quality of the internet here because the internet that I'm using right now is, I consider it like meh, like very, very slow. Remember the snail theory? Oh, yeah, I do. And this theory is, by the way, can be applied to what's happening nowadays. I think even to the even bigger extent than in Bakhmut. Because after Bakhmut, how much gains did they have since 2024, 2023? Actually, not much. All of a sudden, Putin wants peace. Andrew, you see, there is a nuance. So Putin says he wants peace, he's ready to negotiate, but in Putin's mind, peace is basically capitulation of Ukraine. He doesn't recognize anything else. Witkov, when he returned from the negotiations, he said that Russians are utilizing the Istanbul Protocol, Istanbul agreement that Ukraine did not sign in 2022, because if it did, we would not be talking here with you, my friends. So, what was in that agreement? We all remember that Ukrainian army is completely demilitarized, 50,000 troops or so, no NATO, no Euro integration, nothing like that, Russian cultural expansion, you know. And also, Ukraine will rebuild the Donbass that was largely destroyed by Russian bombs and cruise missiles, which is freaking insane. So we didn't sign that. And currently, Russians pull out this Istanbul Protocol and they say that this is our demands and we want Ukrainians to agree to our demands. So Witkov said that this Istanbul Protocol will be used as a roadmap, basically, for the American team to, establish the ceasefire. Which I can tell you right now, it will not work. Because that is literally not a protocol, that is literally an act of Ukrainian capitulation. It will not work like that. So Putin says, I want peace. I want everybody to live. I want those beautiful Ukrainian people to live peacefully. And I just want them to push their government, their Nazi Jewish Russian speaking Ukrainian president, to agree to our demands. That's it. Give us 4 regions that we don't have full control of, and there will be peace, I guarantee. Also, demilitarize your army. We will never attack you. I promise. You can trust my word. Degenerates. Yeah, I don't know how to call them otherwise. Degenerates. There's a lot of degenerates out there, not only in Russia, unfortunately. Operator.starsky is connected to it. It's like that. When I streamed in Kiev, I have worst quality of the video, but better internet. Actually, I had like 1 gigabit internet that would cost me like amazing $10 a month. I know you're envious, but I'm sorry. Ukrainian prices are amazing. Here I have 50, no, I have, 50 megabit internet with like 20 megs upload speed. That costs a bit more, but wait, is it 50? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but generally the quality is meh. So I also have different, like unlimited internet on my phone that I usually use to like stream and stream basically, and it's very very fast. And also it's really good when whenever I try to play the Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I didn't touch for probably 2 months already. I have this, like craving, but I literally have no time. I heard today an interview on the Kiev Independent YouTube channel about Donald Trump being a Russian asset. I saw that one. And I also. Do I have it here? I hope I do. Yeah, I will just show you several. tiny photos. Again, it's not something that I can confirm because I don't have those details. People generally like to find easy explanation for complex things. However, sometimes those explanations can be easy. So there is a guy on your screen. In 1987, he worked in the KGB in Moscow. After that, he was chief of the security services of Kazakhstan. His name, oh my God, is Alnur Musayev. So what he says is that in 1976, I served in 6th Department KGB USSR in Moscow, and yeah, you have translation there on the bottom. I'm translating for you. He says the most important area of work of the 6th Department was the acquisition of spies and sources of information from among businessmen of capitalist countries. It was in that year that our department recruited the 40-year-old businessman from the USA, Donald Trump, nicknamed Krasnov. Can I confirm this somehow? No, there are no evidence besides the fact that Donald Trump actually arrived to Moscow, and there are some evidence about Donald Trump's visit being actually organized by KGB. Why would Donald Trump go to Moscow in 1987? Please tell me. I want to know because USSR was not a capitalist country. You cannot have a business in Russia as a, I don't know, like a private person, a businessman. No, it doesn't work like that. Um, I have no idea why he went to Moscow. Maybe he will explain sometime. But it was the fact. He went there, and after that, basically, he became a big supporter of anti-NATO idea for the United States. You must remember that, by the way. But like, what kind of evidence must there be to confirm or prove that he was a Russian asset? I have no idea. We don't have them. Camera frequency can be either 50 or 60 hertz to ensure capability. Why not carry a jammer? Uh, Good question. Oh my God, David, Fucci is okay. I saw his recent pictures. He's so fat. Remember, I'm saying that Fucci is fat in my every stream, but it's true. He like every single day he's fatter than previously, which I think is beautiful because uh, I taught my dog that like I encourage him or like I endorse him every single time he eats. So it's like I put a food for him, he starts eating, and of course I'm like stroking him and I say good dog, and he eats faster because oh my god, he's been encouraged. So this works, and now he's oh my god, I'm not even sure that he can fit in his like his collar. Do you like Trump getting Russia to peace talks or Biden Camilla escalations? I absolutely like the idea of peace talks, and I absolutely like the idea of bringing Russia to responsibility for their crimes. I would like Trump much, much, much more if he mentioned how exactly will Russia be punished for its war crimes, how exactly Russia will return 20,000 Ukrainian kids, how exactly the war criminals who shot people in Bucha will be punished, how exactly Russia will pay the reparations to restore Ukraine, and things like that. I would be really, really happy to hear about that. Peace at any price, even if this price is Ukraine losing territories, homes, and literally lives, civilian lives, for nothing. And considering the fact that Russia can just replace its losses in vehicles and personnel and attack one more time, because as you probably remember, one of the key points, positions of Trump's administration is that Ukraine must never be accepted to NATO. Why is that? How do you think? Because I don't remember that NATO was expanding much since like 2004. Why is it so crucial for Ukraine not to be part of NATO? That's interesting. And another thing that makes me concerned about this commentary is the word escalation. Um, how do you think, if you fight back, if there is a dude raping your wife, for example, in front of you, um, what do you do? Do you help your wife? Or you just try to, talk this man out of this, please, please don't do this. Kind sir, please, let's not escalate, okay? Maybe we can find a solution that will satisfy you. Maybe, if we ask my wife if she agrees, if she likes this, maybe she will let you do that part time. Generally speaking, if you're doing this, you're partially like. My God, I'm so into this. If you're doing this, you partially own her right now. So maybe I can share. It's considering Ukraine sharing its territory with Russian invaders. Fuck, people, are you insane? What kind of escalation? Ukraine defends itself. Ukraine defends its right to exist. If you are pussy who literally doesn't have any courage to fucking fight, then just quit using internet, okay? Because commentaries about escalation are fucking embarrassing, literally. I promise not to swear on this channel because um, it's not good for me as a former representative of military, but unfortunately, some people just ask for this. US voted against holding Russia responsible for this war in the United Nations and the World Bank. I don't know about the World Bank. Now, one thing that I've heard recently is that some of the international aid, including the aid for Ukraine and including some extended aid for Ukraine, may be restored in the nearest future. That is, like, sources are in the White House. We will see. Maybe they were talking about the military aid to Ukraine. Hey, how are you? Starsky, use some improvisation that you learned in the military, create some new words, tell Russians to go arm themselves. Yeah, the problem is, I'm trying to learn German language very, very much, and the languages mix in my head so bad. So like it's hard to speak five at once. I came to conclusion that it's hard to speak five at once, but sometimes I'm really like very, very slow answering because I'm trying to answer in five languages at once. Um, anyways, I will improve, I promise. Good news, the UN resolution passed by a large margin, so that will have an immediate effect on this genocide in Ukraine. I don't think it will have immediate effect, but I know that it's important to call things for what they are. It's important to say that yes, Russia is aggressor, Russia is responsible, and remind people about it, because it United Nations, generally speaking, are extremely useless. The very fact that there is Russia in the UNSC that literally vetoes all the decisions, it makes this organization absolutely useless in 2025. Everybody knows that, right? I'm like playing Captain Obvious. But it's important to at least talk about this and make those resolutions on the international level. Because one way or another, we still need some kind of council of the countries, global council, to speak about those things. I was surprised by the vote of Israel. I have no idea. But again, there is no justice in this world. I would not say that, you know. Oh, we have Nick from In Time. Hello, my friends. Hello. I would not say that there is no justice in this world. For example, approximately 13 Russian generals, a bunch of Ukrainian collaborationists, a bunch of war criminals were eliminated and became a better people. So there is justice. Sometimes it requires men with knuckles. Yeah. Justice exists, but it requires dudes who will defend it. So yeah, generally that's the answer why Israel voted against the resolution. I keep forgetting about this. Trump voting to turn Gaza into a tourist attraction. My friend, I watched the video he published. I saw a lot of shit in my life, but I don't know how to comment that piece of art. I literally, it was too cringy. If you want to sleep properly, please don't watch it. If you don't want to have nightmares, avoid watching it at all costs. What do you think about keeping your friends close and your enemies closer? It's a very good position. It's a very good position, especially if your enemy is much stronger than you. Then it may work. But literally joining your enemy, for example, like during the vote in the United Nations, um, it's not a good way to keep your enemy close. Doesn't really work like that. We have a saying in Ukraine, we have a saying that sounds approximately like this. If you find yourself in the ass, it's not an excuse to be shit, right? What is the most popular or best ways to counter drones? Generally speaking, electronic warfare. It was always like that. The best way to counter them is portable electronic warfare measures. If we're talking about the drones on the tactical operational level, that is like 40 range of 40 kilometers, the fixed wing drones. Then there are other ways, sometimes missiles, sometimes anti-air cannons, or heavy machine guns, or helicopters. But recently, Ukraine started also massively utilizing literally FPV drones to intercept them. And recently, they shot down like one of the most advanced Russian drones that cost something like $300,000, which in reality, I believe, probably doesn't cost more than like 20K, right? 20 grand. That would be its price. But according to Russian data, of course, it costs like $300 because uh, Russian oligarchs want to drive Teslas. Seen the anti-drone laser clip from Ukraine recently, it looked super accurate. Yeah, we also talked about laser weapons. Um, I don't think that we will see massive utilization of those weapons soon because generally they require a lot of energy. But who knows? Maybe in the future. What do you think of Zelensky forming a government of national unity? Um, I think the very necessity to form such government means that Russians are utilizing their informational warfare on a highest level possible. And this means that Ukrainian people also need some kind of, I don't know, inspiration or some kind of force that will unite them as well. Uh, one way or another, there always must be some kind of organization that will unite society around an idea of survival, giving them directions. I think it's a proper thing. So, Canada just canceled a massive Tesla deal. Oh my God. This is horrible. Anyways, this one is actually a bit disturbing because there was an update that Trump actually offers immigration gold cards to Russian oligarchs. And, well, generally to people that will pay big money, like $5 million. But what is $5 million for a Russian oligarch? There is basically nothing. So there is a possibility that United States may probably get infiltrated by a bunch of Russian oligarchs. Why does the Trump administration want to get so close? What do they find attractive about Russians? I have literally no idea because there is absolutely nothing attractive about Russia. It's a violent, atrocious terrorist regime known for stealing toilets, kidnapping children, and doing all kinds of ugly shit. That is something I will never endorse in my life. Do I have to pay $5 million to renounce my citizenship? Uh, Welcome to Europe, Canada. Actually, I've heard this one. I've heard that there is a possibility, it was like a couple of weeks ago, that Canada may actually try and join the European Union, which I don't mind. We will have to rename the union after that, though. And there's a big question what to do with, like, removing the European borders. Anyways, like, you can freely travel, for example, from Germany to Canada, okay, without visa. If you can paddle long enough, on your boat, then why not? Have Ukrainian forces tried to disable drones by microwaves, for example, strong beam from radar array to circuit and born electronics? I know that what works is when you suppress the GPS signal or Wi-Fi signal. That is something that works 100% in most cases. Microwaves, I don't really know. Probably you will need some very, very powerful microwave to make it happen. And I don't think that people have such capabilities as of now. Like radar systems, yeah, they can do that, but like, come on, you can only burn slightly, like have extra suntan if you stand next to a radar for extended period of time, but at a distance of 5 kilometers, for example, it won't really work from what I can tell. Just do another rename from Atlantic Ocean to Canada Sea. uh, how do you call promotion only vice versa when you get like lowered in the rank? Please don't do this to Atlantic Ocean, okay? Atlantic Ocean deserves to be Atlantic, but and generally speaking, this habit of renaming stuff, it's a bad example. It's let's not do that, okay? The only people who will benefit from that is like map publishers. They will be happy. They will be, like publishing new map every year or like every several months. Let's keep them cold the way they are. Oh my God, where was that? Have you seen the big blue bruise on Trump's hand? Last time I saw that on Queen Mary, and she died a few days after. Daniel, again, we are approaching, this dangerous area of tinfoil hats. That could be anything. Literally, he could forget to wash his hands or apply too much suntan cream. In Ukrainian media, I'm not sure why they did it back in the days, but in Ukrainian media, the rumors that Putin will die in several weeks and he has some extremely, extremely uncurable disease, they were circulating for years. And one thing I understood, uh, I don't really believe in miracles. Miracles do work. Yeah, they do happen in Ukraine, for example. In Ukraine, they happen all the time. The Revolution of Dignity miracle, yeah. The first Russian invasion of Donbass, also a miracle, helped Ukraine. What else? 2022, of course. So I do believe in miracles, but I don't want this to become a habit. So let's stay realistic. Yeah, that's the thing. Putin the dickhead has been dying for 20 years already. Yeah. Any country that voted against that resolution should not be in NATO. I agree on that, actually. Considering that, again, Russia was recognized as a terrorist regime by NATO, by parliamentary NATO assembly, that is fact. So the Baltic Sea should be renamed to the Swedish Baltic Sea. Come on, guys, let's not do this. Geography was never my strongest subject back in the school, so let's not make it worse, okay? Perhaps we could rename Putin to Poodle and say, no more biscuits, you're a bad dog. But generally speaking, he already has a nickname. He's known worldwide as Huilo. That is not Julio, Huilo. That is a difference. I think peace should be only considered if Russia gives back the pre 2014 borders. I agree on this. Absolutely. Who can become the next president in your view in Ukraine? Oh my God. I have no idea. I have no idea. Before the war, I was a big supporter of an idea of some kind of military person becoming a president of Ukraine. And the reason for that was that Ukrainian people were, how to call this? Ukrainian people were extremely careless. 2014, Russian invasion, annexation of Crimea, then Donbass. People are scared. They call somebody help, and there's volunteers. They go, okay, we will go and defend you. So we go to Donbass, and we start defending our people back home. And 2016, 2017, you return home from the front lines, and people are like, what are you doing there? And you're like, dude, I do something important. I protect you against Russians. And they go, and no, it's not Russians, it's oligarchs who want us and Russians to fight each other. I'm like, so why don't you go there and tell it to the people of Donbass, dude? Come on, I can show you where to find them. And people realized that, oh my God, we're not dying, our houses are not bombed. Kiev, 600 kilometers away from the front line, don't even watch those news, you know. So back in those days, I was a supporter of an idea for a military person, some veteran, to become a president of Ukraine. That would be somebody I would vote, seriously. Nowadays, everybody is military in Ukraine, so doesn't matter much. I don't know. I cannot even say much about the candidates. I can tell you for sure that there will be a lot of candidates among the veterans. Okay. Currently, there's a lot of political parties fighting on the front lines. There is a lot of members of parliament also fighting. There are such cases. So, one way or another, whatever the choice will be, I believe it will be good. Donetsk airport took forever. Yeah, it took. Actually, it took more than 242 days. I think it was rather something like 244 or 64. I don't remember exactly, but it took more. Meeting in Ireland is a big deal. Yeah, I feel envious. I feel envious because I always wanted to travel to Ireland. Maybe one day. Time for cooking food talk. Okay, okay. I will start torturing you then because I have something to show. So the other day, come on, close. So the other day, I was like, what do I want to eat? And I came to conclusion that I have a bunch of salmon in my fridge, and I realized that I need to get rid of it somehow because I cannot cook sushi at home. I don't have all the necessary tools to make it possible. That is why I made this. And this, my friend, is a perfect salmon. I'm not sure if I showed it before, but anyways. Oh my God, it's so good. I'm drooling right now. I'm literally drooling right now. um, so just to show you how well it looks on the inside, and I hope that that I will, yeah. Just so you could understand, take a look at this one. Isn't it cool? And that is literally salmon. It's like it was supposed to be red, but it's not for some reason. I have no idea. Yeah, but another thing that I wanna do a bit later is when, oh my God, is when I will find all the necessary tools and spices, and I will be making sushi myself. Because back in Ukraine, I did that a lot. Back in Ukraine, you can just go to the store, buy salmon, for example. And in Ukraine, we don't, we smoke salmon, but we also have this cured salmon. It's when you add 10 spoons of salt, for example, and 1 spoon of sugar, and wrap it in the tin foil and leave it in the fridge for like several days. And you have cured salmon. In Germany, they don't have that. In Germany, all the salmon they have, like it's either fresh or smoked, which brings sorrow to my heart, seriously, because in Ukraine you just go and buy it in big amounts and make sushi. So I decided to make it myself. I will be curing salmon myself, and then I will be making a lot of like rolls and stuff. And the coolest thing about those sushi is that they taste much better than in the restaurant. And in the restaurant, the best sushi are like those that are fresh. These homemade sushi, they taste better if you leave them like overnight in the fridge. They're just fantastic. So Ukraine has a lot of farmers, so the food can always be fresh. Ukraine has a lot of like the agricultural industry. Do you call it this way? Is developed in Ukraine big time. When you look at Ukraine, first of all, there's all kinds of terrain in Ukraine. That is something you should know. There are mountains, there are seas, there are shores, there are rivers, there are deserts, etc., etc. But in most cases, if we go to like Kherson region, if we go to generally like Donbass as well, it's mainly flat and everything grows there. Like all those fields full of stuff. And if they're not full of like crops or veggies or whatever, they're full of cattle. So Ukraine can, of course, provide a lot. And given some kind of push, okay, some kickstart, I think that Ukraine can provide for big chunk of Europe at least. I'm from Spain. I have a plate called cocido. It's something like your borscht, but with cabbage, no root beef. Mm, look, in Ukraine, we have beetroot, right? But we also add cabbage. It's important. If you see borscht without cabbage, it's not borscht. But if you see like literally borscht without beetroot, it's also not borscht. They must be mixed together. Sometimes they add like beans. I'm not a big fan of beans. Um, but borscht must look properly. It must be like red, saturated red, uh, with cabbage, with meat, of course. And I've heard this crazy, crazy recipe for borscht. It's when first you put chicken. First you drop like chicken or a duck, and you boil this water with the duck or chicken. Then you remove the meat. Then you drop something like pork, and you boil it inside the same water. Then you remove the pork and add lamb, and you boil the lamb. And I think they also add fish or something. So it's some kind of crazy recipe for borscht. You gotta spend like 5 hours cooking it. But in the end, it tastes very, very much filling. Um, I know that, like, generally you spend quite a lot of time cooking borscht. That's why I'm not a big fan of this. I prefer something that you can make in 30 minutes. But if you have enough time, if you have enough inspiration, yeah, then you can do that. Okay, Mary, what do we have here? God visits Adam and said, "Where's Eve?" Adam told God, will we had sex?" And she's gone to the river. God said, oh my God. I have a better one, okay? I have a better one. So, uh, God gathers Adam and Eve, and he says, "I have two gifts for you." Okay. And they're like, what are the gifts? The God says, "So, first gift is the ability to pee while standing." Okay. And Adam is like, "Fuck you, that will be mine, give it to me." And the God is, "Okay, now you have it." And Adam is like really like running around like crazy, peeing like on trees, on dogs, on everything, like smiling happily. And Eve and God like stand there watching at Adam disappearing somewhere in the bushes. And Eve is like, "Okay, God, what is the second gift?" He's like, "The brain, Eve, the brain." A local grocery store here has $5 sushi on Wednesday. Seriously? Oh my God. Where do you live? I wanna know where where heaven is on earth. Um, Actually, like here we have also sushi, like a small box of sushi, okay, which costs around €5, but they're not always good, and generally €5 is like 5.50, $5.30. So, anyways, it's more expensive. You're my kind of guy. You saying divorced and dating. But I will be happy if you subscribe to my channel regardless. Thank you so much. Ah, it's normally $8. Oh my God, raw tuna rolls. I love tuna rolls. Oh my God. I love like nigiri with tuna. Those are my favorite. Sometimes I would like just order like 10 nigiri with tuna and 10 with salmon, and I will just be happy. Oh, you're from Florida. Please pass my greetings to the famous Florida man, if possible. I will appreciate it greatly. Have you ever visited the Americas? I've been to the United States. I'm not sure if I have a picture. I think I do. Do I have it here? Oh my God, I don't. Ah, bummer. But anyways, trust my word. I've been to the United States once. That's basically when I got recruited by CIA and George Soros, according to Russians. According to Russians, actually, I already received a lot of money from George Soros. If you can, dear viewers, please remind Mr. Soros that he owes me a paycheck. I'm checking my mailbox every single day. Nothing there. Besides everyday spam, nothing. Will you be the next James Bond? Oh my god, my friend. I don't think so. My British accent sucks balls big time, no matter how hard I try. Uh, when you come to the USA, come to North Carolina and try Southern buttermilk biscuits and gravy. Ah, I will make a screenshot of this, my friend, because sometimes I just forget about important things. Thank you so much. I will use your advice. And if possible, I will even find a recipe. So my idea, and this is, my friends, something very, very much intimate, but I would really like to share it with you. My idea, after the war, there are two ways. Either I continue reporting as a journalist and observer and yada yada, basically what I do now, or I will start a new show that I will call Eating with Starsky. And the idea is visiting my viewers, you, my dear family, around the world, and trying some kind of like craziest or tastiest local dish. That would be fantastic. First of all, we will teach other people in other countries how to like we will develop the proper taste for a proper cuisine, right? For proper dishes. And also, it's a good opportunity to learn other cultures. I think at least, my God, at least 100 countries I can visit, which makes it at least 100 episodes. And that's a lot. So that is something I'm looking forward to. God, I'm so hungry right now. When are we going to hear some new music? Oh, oh my God, I miss it so much. But probably, probably we will do the other way around. I will compile those playlists and I will show them to you. Currently, I'm testing some of those playlists on my lady actually, because some of the music she likes, some not. Um, but that is something that I will probably do in the nearest future. My email has the word chef and can make foods from your email. I don't know. Even your red and green borscht, solянка, and okroshka. Yeah, I love okroshka, by the way. It's really, really good. The difference between solянка and borscht is something I don't really understand because sometimes they're literally the same in some regions. In some region, you buy solянка and it's basically borscht. So it takes special skills to tell which is which. In Ukraine, does Pepsi or Dr. Pepper contain artificial sweeteners? Because in my country, they have poisoned both beverages with those disgusting crap instead of natural sugar. I don't know. Seriously. Well, I can tell you this. I tried both in Ukraine, Pepsi and Dr. Pepper, and I survived. So, but on the other hand, I drink all kinds of stuff since I was a little kid. When I was like 11, I would easily drink a liter of Coca Cola on a daily basis. And again, I survived, but probably it's because I consumed this poison since I was a kid. That's why it doesn't work on me very much. I'm a good actor. I've been acting like I'm not insane for decades. Nice one. I think you'll spend a lot of time in the UK. There are so many different local dishes. Absolutely, my friend. And speaking of any given country, for example, there's Germany, there's a lot of regions. Same in Ukraine, by the way. When you go to Lviv, for example, the borscht in Lviv will taste different than the borscht in the neighboring Zakarpattia or borscht in Kharkiv, of course. They have different recipes for stuff. Some stuff is very popular, some stuff is less popular. So it's not even like, an episode from a country. It's an episode from a region of a country, and there will be a lot of them. I think I will spend a lot of time in the UK, definitely. When I go there, in Ireland, of course, I still have to learn how to love Guinness, which is something I'm failing at until this day. Had chicken borscht was tasty, fried cabbage and eggs. Not sure if that's Ukrainian. Fried cabbage and eggs. In some recipes, you do fry cabbage a bit for borscht. I generally just boil it the way it is, and it tastes okay. But in some recipes, you do. Generally speaking, like if it's red and it tastes like heaven, it's borscht or chili con carne, but generally borscht. Because again, there are so many ways to cook it. In Poland, for example, um, maybe I'm not that lucky, but in Poland, borscht is either like borscht, the dish, or it can be even something like drink, um, which is not right. It must be like rich and filling. So, but generally, if you see something that looks like borscht, most probably it's borscht because borscht has different versions of it. Come to Hawaii. I would love to. I would love to. Unfortunately, it's very hard to fly to Hawaii, even in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, because you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and it's very far. But if I have such a chance, I will definitely do that. Hello, brother Starsky. My mom is Canadian. My mom's Canadian Borsch from her Ukrainian mom would probably be different as well. Maybe because one time, when I saw Canadian pizza with Ukrainian varenics, that left me speechless for like half an hour. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, like it looks cool, of course, I like such things. On the other hand, like my roots, my genes inside of me, my all of my ancestors started like screaming, like what the hell is that? But anyways, I don't care. Like I don't uh, mind about experimenting. That's why I support pineapples on pizza. I hear chicken tastes like snake. I can almost confirm that. I mean, snake tastes a bit like chicken, only with a tiny, tiny mixture of reptile. Buy a pitcher of draft beer and then put a bottle of Guinness in it. It will be okay that way, but looks like car radiator water. Um, Honestly, I tried Guinness. I just don't know why I couldn't like it so much. Like, I know the guys and especially a lot of youth in Ireland like Guinness, but I had like a hint from you, my friends, that apparently I bought like wrong Guinness. Maybe I should really go to Ireland and check it out. Uh-huh. Had fried cabbage and eggs for breakfast. Well, yeah, that is Ukrainian cuisine. Eggs for breakfast and fried cabbage. What else do we have? We have potato pancakes that we call deruni. I believe that Germans have something similar. Kartoffeln, blah blah blah, something like that. But in Ukraine, they just like if you eat them with sour cream, they just taste so rich and special. Greetings from Vermont. What time is it in Vermont, by the way? Fried cabbage. Yeah, that's the thing. Uh, it kind of it tastes strange. Uh, Literally, it's like the way you cook it. Okay. Ah, yeah, my friends say Kartoffelpuffer. Yeah, genau. So it's the way you fry it. Generally, it tastes like if you add meat, a lot of meat. It tastes very, very nice. Uh, but I'm not a particular like big fan from a big fan of um, fried cabbage for some reason. I don't know why. Greetings from Chicago. How's things in Chicago, by the way? I've had a lot of friends from there. There is this very famous, sorry, Ukrainian ensemble, like dancing ensemble called Hromovitsa. And I'm sure if you're from Chicago, you must know them because they participate in any kind of event taking place in Chicago. So, like games, like whatever, parades. And I had a lot of friends from that ensemble. They are cool. You should try fried mashed potato. Fried and mashed. Ah, I should try that. Generally, I love mashed potato. I love my kovbasa и kapusta with garlic, onions, and caraway seeds. That's the way my grandmother from Posada made it. The Ukrainians in Ukraine use caraway seeds. Just a second. I need to check with the Google. Seeds. Oh, ah, yeah, of course we do. Yeah, yeah. We do use them. We have a lot of different kinds of bread with those seeds. Um, we also drop them in kovbasa, generally speaking. We have that as well. Not particularly big fan of those, but I can eat them. Guys, I'm starving, seriously. I think it's a good opportunity to call it a night, and I will literally run. I have rice and I have doner in my fridge, and I want to combine them and help myself survive this night. So I would like to say big thanks to all of our courageous moderators tonight. I would like to say big thanks to all the supporters of my channel, and also big thanks to all the courageous people who donate to Ukrainian defenders, as well as my brigade. Because I joined this organization, right? I decided to promote it on my platform because I didn't do much for my brigade, not as much as I want to. So you can find the link in the description. It's HARMATA Volunteers. It's an official fund that supports 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine called Rubish. That is my home brigade. Also, big thanks to all the viewers. Big thanks to everybody for your amazing questions and commentaries. I think that we can say good night. And we will see each other in the commentaries after this stream. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be safe and eat something good, okay? Eat something, reward yourself. Bye bye.